NBA basketball is finally back. We are so happy. We had a full week of NBA action, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit right here on NB8. AJ Evans joining me once again. AJ, an incredible first week. I don't think we could have asked for, there have been really great games, really awesome performances. Really, I could not have asked for a better start to the year, I don't think.
Oh, yeah. No, you certainly couldn't have. Just from an entertainment standpoint, this has been off the charts.
Absolutely. Obviously, we'd like to see the Pistons maybe with a couple of extra wins, but 3-2 right now in the young season. A couple of tough games, a couple of big wins, though, against some really tough competition. I think Pistons are in good shape. We're obviously going to spend a little bit extra time talking about the Pistons, but we'll also be talking about some of the other news surrounding the league, and that's actually where we want to begin right now, a little bit related to the Pistons. It's been a week since we first learned of the allegations of gambling and sports betting against Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, former Pistons legend Chauncey Billups, and Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat. AJ, just kind of starting off, obviously we know the allegations. There's still pending an investigation. There's still a lot going into this story right now. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are on leave from the league right now. Just initial thoughts when you first heard that news last week.
I was shocked. On both ends, because Rozier had been cleared previously of any wrongdoing by the NBA. And as far as Chauncey goes, he is the last person in the NBA that I would have expected to be tied into something like this. He's always been known as just a very solid stand-up guy and somebody that a lot of players trust and go to. It's why he was able to ascend to a head coaching role almost immediately after retiring from his career. He was a leader in so many locker rooms, Pistons locker rooms included. He went home and took the Nuggets to the conference finals, really helped them get to another level that they hadn't really been to during Carmelo's time there. So it was very disturbing. I think that's the first word that comes to mind. And then second after that was disappointing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, the allegations surrounding Chauncey Billups specifically are very concerning. He was, with the mob ties related to this. He was part of a scheme to swindle people out of millions of dollars during these poker games and everything like that. And again, this is just the latest chapter, really, in the gambling epidemic that's happening, not just in the NBA. Obviously, that is where a lot of these players have been banned for life or experiencing longer sentences from the league or, longer investigations, and they're put on leave. But again, this is really all of sports. And I think it really does beg the question and really the conversation surrounding the fact that the NBA and other leagues are kind of promoting these sports betting and gambling. I don't think you could turn on any talk show about the NBA. I don't think you could turn on any game in the NBA without seeing some FanDuel, some DraftKings ads, or members of the analysis team and these shows kind of going over, here's who I think will cover the spread. Here, take the over on this player and everything. So again, I think this is just needs to lead to a bigger conversation about the NBA specifically. Is this what they want to be promoting, especially with all this going on? Or how can they necessarily say, you're not allowed to do this, but we're still going to be profiting off this? I've seen commercials with players in them for FanDuel and everything like that. Again, how do we do this? How is this still able to keep going on? And does the NBA even see an issue with this? Or are they just going to be continuing to punish the guys for being a part of this, but then continuing to profit off it?
I think you have to see the issue with this now, especially with Chauncey Billups being tied into this. This is a guy who was a face of the league for so long, and he's one of the, I think, most popular players of the early 2000s. And I think he's still very popular. He's well known if you follow the NBA over the last 20 years. But no, Phil, to your point, it's confusing. It's confusing for the average fan, the average viewer. So I can't even imagine what the players are going through in terms of, okay, what can I bet on? What can I not bet on? What can I do? What can I not do? And I don't know if those rules are very explicit right now. And also, too, I think they're constantly changing. And this is not only an NBA challenge, but this is a professional sports challenge right now. And also in the NCAA as well. So
exactly.
I think this is going to be really interesting This is going to be an interesting chapter for Adam Silver's career, because one thing that I think he is sort of different in terms of from David Stern is that Stern ruled the league with an iron fist. Yeah. And if there was a punishment coming, it was likely going to be harsh. And I think Silver has done a great job of regulating so many different things, but how do you navigate this? Because at the end of the day, these leagues are making a lot of money off of these gambling sites. So it's very confusing. It's a very strange time to be a part of the league, to watch the league. But yeah, I think first and foremost, it's just so disappointing and shocking.
Definitely. And again, it kind of leads, with the Chauncey news specifically, we've seen a couple of players being investigated and even banned for life. Chauncey Porter got a lifetime ban from the NBA for betting on games as well. But Chauncey Billups thing brings another added thing. And obviously, he's not being accused of betting on games, but being tied to this whole gambling circus kind of going on right now. I mean, does this go deeper in the NBA, man? I mean, a coach being involved with stuff like this now. Again, just there needs to be something done. And again, I think, the NBA needs to be at the forefront of this. They're being very coy, very quiet about this right now. Even with the investigation into Terry Rozier, we heard that there was an investigation, but we didn't hear anything from the NBA until the FBI announced the charges against him. So I don't think this is something that they can continuously try to just push under the rug and forget about.
Yeah, and it's strange too, because gambling was outlawed. Sports this was not allowed for so many years, and for rightful reasons. I mean, there are so many scandals that you can point to in every sport, and so now you can't even say it's creeping its way back into professional sports. It's here, and it's so widespread, like you said. It's so ubiquitous. You see it everywhere. You see commercials for it. You see it on the courts and on the sides of courts. It's insane. So how you regulate it, I don't know, but you need to find a way quickly.
Right. And I wonder, this is something that I was kind of thinking about when I first heard the news, just with the latest investigation. Again, this is something that's been going on for years and years now. So I've had plenty of time to actually think about it, but this kind of just propelled in my mind. I mean, is there a way that the NBA can maybe, I don't want to say allow players, but there's got to be a way that they can sort of provide an avenue for players that do want to maybe bet on themselves. I'm going to take the over on myself and let them still allow them to bet, but again, kind of monitor it so they're not throwing games or potentially getting in the way of their team's success. Or is it just too much of a slippery slope? Like, that's the issue at hand right now.
I think it is. I mean, it's so dangerous because, isn't that essentially kind of what happened with Terry Rozier? Like, he bet the under on himself, took himself out of the game.
Exactly.
And that was that. Like, I don't know. I mean, taking the over on yourself, I guess that's the definition of betting on yourself. You're doing well, but I don't know. I don't know, Phil. What do you think?
I think there is a way that the NBA could maybe supply an avenue for players.
So you think it could work for a guy betting on himself?
I think that's the way they should maybe look at it. I feel like this just goes too far deep. I mean, I think there are guys out there that are still maybe involved in this in the league. I'm not naming names. I just think this is too big for there to not be other players involved. And then comes into play, if a player, Terry Rozier is a great player, but he's not an all-star. Chauncey Porter, he was in the league, but he wasn't making big money. He wasn't getting a lot of playing time. You don't think that there are maybe players with a lot of, I guess, power in the NBA, some real stars that aren't also kind of being a part of this? I know everybody kind of goes back to the Michael Jordan days. Again, nothing ever came out with that, but he gambles. He gambled a lot. He said said specifically that he always bets on himself no matter what he's doing. He's a very competitive guy. You don't think there are other competitive players in the NBA also doing this? Well, what happens if that star player gets caught up in this? Again, just another issue. Does the NBA do anything?
Yeah, no, and I think you're highlighting an underlying aspect of all of this. These are some of the most competitive people to walk this earth.
Absolutely.
Like that's and that gets into a much more, I think, philosophical conversation, because ultimately that's what gambling is about, winning. But yeah, that's what it comes down to. But I think a lot of people try and conflate the two, winning and money. They're not always directly associated with each other. Like I said, these are some of the most competitive people on the planet. So how you regulate that, like you said, I don't know. Maybe betting on yourself could be an avenue, but the league better find one quickly. They better find an avenue that they can trust and that they can regulate quickly.
Absolutely. Well, again, time will tell on those latest investigations. Of course, with the ties to Detroit, we're going to be keeping a close eye on everything, bringing you all the latest right here on NB8 with those investigations. But let's move on now, AJ, and talk about some fun basketball again. Again, we got all the serious topics out of the way. Yeah. Let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. They start the season at 3-2. First 5 games of the 82-game season are already under their belt. They dropped the first game against Chicago before rattling off wins against the Rockets and Celtics. They fell to the Cavs, but then bounced back pretty big against the Orlando Magic, a team that we both thought were going to be really good this year. They've stumbled out of the gate as well. But focusing back on the Pistons, what have you liked so far watching them play so far this season?
I've liked a lot. I've liked a lot, Phil.
Not a whole lot to complain about so far.
Yeah, no, not too much at all. I think, the 3-2 is exactly that. It's 3-2. It's an 82-game season. But, I mean, they just seem to have picked up where they left off last year. I really like Asar Thompson handling the ball a lot more. I like him initiating the offense. Cade Cunningham has just been phenomenal again. He just looks better all around. There are a few things you can pinpoint. Obviously, he seems bigger, stronger, more equipped to handle contact at the rim. But overall, though, he's just so much more comfortable. The game really seems like it's slowing down even more for him now. He really seems like he knows where everyone is on the floor. And I think that just comes from, playing with these guys for a few years now. But, yeah, there's been a lot to like. I think their team still not making as many shots as they'd probably like at this point. But I think that's just, Russ trying to knock things off of the preseason and just trying to get accustomed to this year. But there's been so much to like so far. I really can't complain too much, Phil.
Absolutely. And I really like Cade. I mean, obvious all-star this year. I mean, he has been playing out of his mind, and that's what you want out of your star player. Yeah, all NBA at least, at the very least. I mean, he has been one of the top guys this year. He's been playing great. He's making the offense run a lot, and he had those 2 crazy blocks last night against the Magic too. But one guy that I've really enjoyed watching, and as a big viewer of the NBA, I try to watch every game as much as I can. And I've been a big fan of Isaiah Stewart for a really long time. He has been playing great this year, just grabbing offensive rebounds, helping out on defense. I mean, he's doing all the little things, and it's great to have a guy like Stewart who kind of understands his role on this team and plays it perfectly. You need guys like that. Him, Duncan Robinson, another guy who's a great addition to this team. We talked about that earlier. Tobias Harris also having a great start, but Isaiah Stewart specifically, I think he's been my MVP so far for the Pistons.
Yeah, it's hard to really encapsulate like how much he does for this team on a nightly basis. And it's funny because when he was starting out, he was playing well in limited minutes and his role just gradually grew. And I think the question became of like, okay, well, this guy's really good, but he's kind of undersized. Like, he might just fit within this roster. Like, do you pay him? Is the fit really going to be worth it in the long term? And the answer has been a definitive yes. Like, he's been so great since he's been here. He does so many little things, like you said, on a nightly basis. He is a great screen setter. He rebounds well. I mean, even just watching the Magic game last night and every game this season so far, he always finds ways to box out and create rebounds, even if it's not for himself. He takes a guy out and Paul Reed or Duran is grabbing a board that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. That's stuff that doesn't maybe show up on a stat sheet, but it's stuff that is so invaluable, especially the further you go along and especially once you get into the postseason.
And one thing I did want to touch on with you, AJ, is just a couple of guys against the Pistons so far this year have popped off for big games. Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, all both going for over 40 against them. Obviously, you don't want to give up 40 points to one specific player. I mean, is this a big issue to you, or do you see this more as so the Pistons defense maybe just pushing the ball onto one guy and kind of limiting the amount that all the other players are kind of doing? Especially with like a team like Boston when they're kind of relying on Jaylen Brown or for Cleveland, they're kind of relying on Donovan Mitchell to make those shots. I mean, do you kind of see that as maybe their game plan, or do you see it maybe as a bigger problem?
No, I don't see it as a bigger problem. I think it's really just a sign of the times, Phil. I mean, there's so many talented guys around the league. And I mean, from a, just from a coaching perspective, I'm sure Bickerstaff's, I'm sure his mindset is, well, if a guy's going to get 40, do we win or lose?
Right.
If you win, then, hey, go ahead and get 50, but the Donovan Mitchell doing what he did was rough. I mean, it just seemed like he was skipping around all of LCA. But I'm not too concerned. I think this team is going to be more than fine. One thing about JB Bickerstaff is that his teams are going to defend. So I'm not all too concerned with it. I think there are just so many talented guys. Any team capable of dealing with a 40 ball from an opposing player. Like it's just how talented the league is right now. So I'm not too worried about it. But I would like them to improve their interior defense a little bit. I think that's something that could be worked on just 5 games throughout the year. But there's been so much to like. Like I said, they're rebounding well. And Beef Stew, Jalen Duren, and Paul Reed have been excellent. I really like what Reed has done off the bench on both ends.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the Pistons get a couple of days off before they take on the Dallas Mavericks this Saturday. What are you looking for specifically with that matchup? Obviously, Cooper Flagg having a progressive season so far, I guess. You know, he looked a little lost out there in that first game, but he's slowly kind of putting it together. What do you hope to see against Dallas?
Just, I think, a continued step of everything. I'd like to see them make a few more threes. That would be nice. I would really like to see them defend. You know, don't allow for anyone to go off. You know, don't allow for Flagg to get a rhythm. Obviously, he seems like his confidence is gradually going, as is any rookie right now. This is a very talented rookie class, by the way. We've quickly figured that out.
VJ Edgecombe, Cedric, my boy Cedric Howard with the Grizzlies. Oh my gosh,
man. Goodness, so much. No, it's been crazy. But yeah, I would just like them to continue to do what they've been doing, just maybe at a bit of a higher level. You know, protect the paint, make threes, you know, make your free throws, obviously, and try and just limit the turnovers too. I think that's another thing I'd like to touch on. You know, this team they're doing so well, and they obviously had a great season last year. But I think when they got to the postseason, they quickly realized, like, every single possession matters. And I think that was sort of the difference between them and the Knicks. And then when you looked at that series, like the overview, the Pistons had quite a few more turnovers than the Knicks. I don't remember the exact differential, but I would like to see them just, you know, continue to take care of the ball and just continue to maximize every possession the best way that they can, because you have all the weapons you need on the floor. This isn't a team that's depleted talent-wise anymore. You know, these guys are more than good enough. So, I think those are the things I'm looking for, but I'm very confident in what I've seen so far.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly. I think all the pieces are there for Detroit. It's just a matter of getting them all to come together and kind of finishing out that puzzle, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, let's focus on the rest of the league now in kind of a different sort of segment. We're not going to go through every single team, obviously, but AJ, real quick, I mean, still early days in the season. You know, there's still over 75 games left for almost every single team. Best team you've seen so far this season? I mean, we've watched a lot of basketball. There've been right now, at this very moment, as of we're recording this Thursday morning, there are currently 4 teams right now that are still undefeated. The Bulls, the 76ers, the San Antonio Spurs, and of course the reigning champions, Oklahoma City Thunder. Which team, I mean, it doesn't have to be one of those, but which team has impressed you the most, I guess, in the league?
This is tough because the team that I would say has impressed me the most, and this may be kind of I don't know, this may be contradicting, but the Rockets. Yeah. I was amazed at how well they defended and how well they played Oklahoma City in the season opener. Obviously, Detroit came out on top in their game against them, but they've got a few things to figure out, Phil. But if they do, I think it could be a wrap out west. They are excellent. They're, once again, similar to Bickerstaff. Ime Udoka has them defending really well. And like I said, at the start of the year, I was concerned with how Kevin Durant fit into the mix of everything, but he gets 30 in his sleep, you know, and this offense is they're still trying to, you know, find their rhythm. And Amen Thompson is still trying to make jumpers, but if he can get that figured out and if they can just continue to defend at a high level. Also, too, when they've gone zone, I've been very, very impressed. And it's something that seems like Ime's showing a lot, but isn't utilizing too much yet. But if they can get that figured out, continue to rebound at a high level, and just continue to integrate Durant into this offense, I would not want to see them in any round of the playoffs this spring. But also, too, like, not to add another team, the Spurs are ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what I was thinking not picking them to make the playoffs. They have hit the accelerator on their rebuild timeline. It's been remarkable to see. It's only a few games, but they're going to make the playoffs, barring some catastrophic injury.
Absolutely. Yeah. Knock on wood on that. Yeah, I mean, definitely, that was going to be my team, the Spurs. I think, you know, I had them as the 7th seed. They might end up being the 1 seed. I don't know how you stop this team, truly. I mean, with Wemby doing what he's doing so far, MVP already. Dylan Harper, what a draft steal. I know he was one of the top picks, but the fact that he wasn't maybe number one right now. I guess, we'll wait and see on Cooper Fleck, but he's been having a great year. Got Stephon Castle, who's really good. They're doing this all, by the way, without De'Aaron Fox, who's arguably their second best player on the team. Right now, sitting at 4-0. I'm so fearful of this next generation of Spurs basketball because, again, they've already had the winning ways with David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and now it's just back again with a whole new cast.
The rich get richer.
Exactly. And it's just, just watching it, I could not compute what I was seeing with Wemby. Yeah. We've known, we talked about this a little bit off air, but we knew Wemby was going to be good as soon as he came into the NBA. Even if he didn't reach his full potential, he was still going to be a multiple-time All-Star, maybe an NBA champion, Defensive Player of the Year candidate every single year. And just seeing him kind of put it all together in year 3, the league is in trouble. If you're a Spurs fan, congratulations. If you're not, yikes. This could be a multiple-year title run for them.
Yeah, no, it's scary what they're able to do, and it's, I think. The thing is, it seems like the Spurs just have not ever ventured away from what got them to the mountaintop in the beginning, and I think they've always done a tremendous job of bringing in guys that were at their core selfless. No matter how talented a certain player is, everyone has always been able to sacrifice for the greater interests of the team. And I think that's been the most remarkable thing about these eras that have happened in San Antonio. But, when you look at Stephon Castle, for example, he was at UConn and played alongside a bunch of guys, won a national championship.
He knows about winning.
Yeah, he knows about winning. And he's used to being a part of winning, but not necessarily being the man. He understands his role. Harper obviously struggled at Rutgers last season to win games. Obviously, he didn't struggle individually, but I think he understands what it takes, and that has been evident right away. And De'Aaron Fox is the same way. He went to Kentucky, played in a ton of big games. He's always been a winner. So, they're going to be scary. They're going to be scary. And them having 3 guards, I don't think is going to be a problem.
No.
I really don't. I think so many people are worried about, well, what's the fit look like? The fit looks like what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Wemby dominating and those guys, taking turns picking opposing teams' guards apart. And all 3 of those guys get after it defensively with Wemby behind them. So
right. And you can make those, I guess, extra effort plays. You could try to jump in the passing lanes, go for more steals, be a little bit more aggressive, knowing that you've got Wemby behind you, blocking everything in sight.
Everything.
And it's kind of the opposite of what the Rockets are doing. The Rockets had, I think in that first game, Amin Thompson was their shortest guy, and he's still got like a 7-foot plus wingspan on him. It's kind of the opposite. They're able to play some of these smaller guards because they've got Wemby. You just need better perimeter defenders because Wemby's going to cover the entire paint for you. So again, I'm really scared about the Spurs, especially as a Grizzlies fan. This is not going to be a good stretch for them. I think you can't find anybody to stop Wemby. I think I did see a stat though that one of the best defenders against Wemby was Santi Aldama, but again, are you playing Santi Aldama 40 minutes every single time? I don't know. So again, it's just going to be rough out west, and I think, like you said, the Spurs have jump-started this rebuild, and I think they're obviously competing for the finals this year already.
Yeah, no, I would be remiss to say that they're not a finals contender. I feel like an idiot for not having them making the playoffs.
Once we get halfway through the season, we'll redo them and we'll have a better idea. Again, we didn't know how good these teams were going to be. So
we really didn't.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with the Grizzlies not making the playoffs. I hate to say it, but again, they just have not looked very good so far this season.
Oh, man.
And that kind of leads me into this next part that we want to talk about, AJ, and that's been teams that you've found very disappointing so far this year. I've got a team in mind. There are a couple of teams right now. There's only 2 teams actually that are 3 teams, I should say. I'm looking at the standings right now. 3 teams that have yet to win a game, that being the Indiana Pacers, obviously dealing with a lot of injuries to their stars. The Brooklyn Nets, obviously trying to tank right now. And the New Orleans Pelicans. That's my pick for the most disappointing team this season. Obviously did not pick them to go to the playoffs. Neither of us did. But they have some players on their team. Zion Williamson, when he's healthy, he's another guy that I don't know how you stop necessarily. Trey Murphy, really good on-ball defender and three-point specialist. Herb Jones, probably one of the better perimeter defenders in the league.
I love Herb Jones.
Yeah, I love Herb Jones. I mean, they've got some guys, but they just cannot seem to put it together. And watching that opening game against the Grizzlies, I mean, they had a huge lead. They had a 17-point lead at one point, I think, and just lost it immediately. And then they were down by 15 at one point. I mean, again, it's just what is going on in New Orleans. You don't want to focus too much on the negatives there, but there are very few positives with this team right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in New Orleans. I mean, collectively over the last few seasons, I don't understand.
Right.
And it's not, I don't think that they're poorly coached. I really like Willie Green. He's from Detroit, but I've always been high on him as a head coach. I'm not sure what it is, Phil. It just seems like it's one of those perpetual cycles that they just can't seem to get out of. But the talent is there. I don't know. I'm a really big fan of Jeremiah Fears as well. I think he's going to have an excellent
career in that first game.
Yeah, he's a big time guard. So and the brother of Michigan State starting point guard Jeremy Fears.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a case of a lot of individual talent that just can't come together collectively for whatever reason. Could be behind closed doors. It's obviously spilling onto the floor, whatever it is. But this has been ongoing for a few seasons now, and it's been kind of sad to see, especially with Zion Williamson. When you think about all of the hype that was surrounding him in his career and the trajectory he was on. Obviously, health has sort of impeded his progress, but the talent is there. It's always been there.
Yeah.
And it's always frustrating when that doesn't translate to wins. It never happens immediately. I mean, unless you're Wemby. But the fact that we're a few years in now and it's still not working, it's very concerning.
Well, and it always kind of felt like if Zion could stay healthy, this team would be competing for the playoffs and, you know, maybe even the Western Conference Finals, maybe even getting to the finals. Yeah. But now he is healthy and, again, still dealing with same old Pelicans, I guess. Yeah. AJ, I mean, do you have a team in mind that has been kind of struggling, a little surprising on the negative side of things for you so far this year?
Yeah, the Orlando Magic, who I have making the Eastern Conference Finals, are 1-4 right now. There are a handful of things I think you could point out, but things just don't look great there right now across the board. I mean, even in their matchup against the Pistons, they just seem like they got outplayed on both ends of the floor. And it's interesting because this is a team that has all of the intangibles to be successful in today's league. You know, they have length, they have young guys that they've been able to stockpile through drafting well. They typically shoot the ball well, which they're not right now. They're only shooting 31% from three. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a very slow start. I know Suggs is still trying to work his way back, and he's still, you know, trying to find a rhythm. But right now, things do not look great in Orlando. But I'm not too concerned. I think they're just getting off to a slow start. Sometimes that happens. You get punched in the mouth, and then you find a way to figure things out the rest of the year. So I think they'll be all right, but they've been a disappointment so far 5 games into the year.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you in the disappointing part, and I'd also agree in the fact that they're still going to be fine. Again, it's still the Eastern Conference. I think they're good enough on paper just to at least make it to the play-in and then make it into the playoffs. I mean, that's just where the East kind of is right now. But again, they're too talented. I think they're going to bounce back at some point. They kind of have to.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, they have to.
Definitely. All right. Well, AJ, we're out of time today, but again, we are going to be back again next week going over all of the top games. Again, bringing you the latest news from the NBA and, of course, spending a lot of time on your Detroit Pistons as they move on throughout the rest of the season. We're so looking forward to it. It's just great to have basketball back, right?
So great.
Yeah, it's just awesome. Best time of the year. All right, AJ. Well, again, thank you so much for stopping by. We'll see you again next week, and I want to thank everybody else for watching this latest edition of NB8.